The Radical. Fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brooks Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Yaron Brooks Show on this Wednesday afternoon. It is February 15th, yes, but it's the afternoon, so I apologize. My schedule all got messed up today, so I had to move the show, but I still wanted to do a news briefing, given that I've promised to do one every day when I'm not traveling. So starting next week, I will be traveling for 2 weeks straight. I will do as many of these shows as I can in whatever time period that I can. So I fear that many of the shows that I'll be doing while I'm traveling are going to be at 2 a.m. your time. So be it. I'll probably have a lot fewer live listeners, but you will get, I will try to do as many, again, of the news briefing shows as possible so that you don't lose touch with the world out there, because I know many of you rely on me to provide you with the news as it is happening. All right, so let's jump in. The Scottish First Minister. This is kind of the Prime Minister of the semi-autonomous region of Scotland. So Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland have their own parliaments and have their own regional governments. They're not completely, obviously, independent from the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom still has, in a sense, a national government, but they do have their own regional governments. Anyway, the Scottish government is known for being super left wing, quite radically socialist, and an advocate of separatism. That is, the Scottish would like to separate from the United Kingdom and become an independent state, because the Scots are so different than the English. Anyway, the main reason they want to leave is because they want to be socialist. I did a whole talk about this in Edinburgh and why secession like this is wrong and why it shouldn't be supported. You can listen to that. It's on the website. It's on YouTube. You can probably find it. It's a talk I gave at Edinburgh late last year on the secession movement of Scotland. Anyway, Sturgeon, Nicola Sturgeon, the longest-serving Scottish leader, also the first female Scottish leader of Scotland and of this political party, socialist and separatist political party, resigned surprisingly yesterday. This is after months of turmoil and controversy. One of the main source of this controversy is a law that her government passed, which is called the Gender Recognition Reform. A Gender Recognition Reform Act, which I guess Scotland can pass on people who live in Scotland, applies to people who live in Scotland, basically allows anyone over 16 to change their gender designation with regard to all official documents without any medical diagnosis, just based on whim, based on, I feel like a female, therefore I am a woman, therefore put down in my passport that I am female and treat me like a woman, right? Because one of the things that transgenderism has brought back into vogue is that the differences between men and women. For decades, feminists were fighting for the idea that there are no difference between the sexes, that they're exactly the same, that there are absolutely no differences. And that's completely being undermined by the transgender movement that says, no, there are real differences. You can be a woman and feel like a man and feel like a woman. And we should elevate feeling to the level of metaphysics and grant you the status of your feeling. This has been very controversial anyway, and there's been a lot of debates, and J.K. Rowling has been a huge, who I think lives in Scotland, is a huge critic of this law. J.K. Rowling, who's quite left wing, is very critical of this law and very critical of the whole of much of the transgender movement. anyway, the reform really became particularly upsetting, I think, to people when last month a rapist, a male rapist, who declared himself to be female, was transferred to a female jail, to female prison. Now, that must have been quite a field day for this rapist to be now considered a woman and to be with women and to, wow, I mean, so that's the kind of nuttiness, absurdity of all this that has really made headlines. Now, in her resignation speech today, Sturgeon said, no, it has nothing to do with the bill. I stand by it, and I stand up for the stigmatized, discriminated against, marginalized, and vulnerable groups in society, she said, right? So she stood up for that. But yes, I'd say good riddance. The challenge now, of course, is who are they going to put in her place? And the real question is, when we have elections in Scotland next time, will there be a political price for a political party to pay for their transgender position? Or is Scotland so left-wing that they'll just endorse this and move on? So it should be interesting. All right, so that's Nicola Sturgeon. I thought I'd add that quickly because breaking news, and I think it is interesting. When I was in Scotland, this was something everybody was talking about. The transgender bill, and then they were talking about secession. Those are the two big issues. I don't think somebody's asking about religion in Scotland. I don't think Scotland is very religious. No, I think it's quite secular. I think it was, but I don't think it is anymore. All right, so as usual, we have a $250 target for the Super Chat. You can use the Super Chat to ask me questions about anything, but you can also use the Super Chat and the sticker feature that it provides to just support the show. $250 is the target that we have for each one of these news-related shows to just make them economically viable, given the time that they take up. All right, let's jump into some of the other topics. Nikki Haley announced yesterday that she would indeed be running for president. So she is the second candidate to jump in after Donald Trump. She announced that she'll be running in the Republican primaries. She's already off to New Hampshire and off to Iowa to start her campaign. As you know, I am have been fairly positive about Nikki Haley within the Republican world, within the potential Republican candidate. She is, I think, by far at this point, a favorite of mine. We'll see who else joins the fray, and we'll see how the campaign develops, and we'll see what she actually says and does during the campaign, and whether she is worthy of the support. But so far, she is my favorite. She was indeed my favorite going into 2016. I was disappointed that she didn't run, although given what happened, she would have been, I think, crushed by Trump. It's going to be interesting to see how she runs. Does she run a real campaign where she stands up, in particular to Trump, and goes after Trump and attacks Trump? Or does she try to stay above all that, attacks and everything, and position herself to be a VP candidate that relates to both Trump and DeSantis? Will she play kind of a soft, moderate stance with regard to attacking, on the campaign trail and in the debates, and position herself? I mean, somebody said, I think John Bolton said on a TV show, he said, Nikki Haley's not running for president, Nikki Haley's running for vice president. And maybe that's true. I hope not. I mean, I really, really, really hope that she takes the gloves off. I don't think she's going to, because I think basically everybody in the Republican field, even DeSantis, are afraid that if they really take the gloves off, if they really go after Trump, then they will lose too many voters who will be completely alienated, and therefore they won't have a chance of winning the primary or the general. I think that's the big mistake. I think the only way to win those people over is to show them that you can stand up not only to the left, but also to Trump, to play this game all the way. I think Trump, there is enough there to be able to really embarrass Trump and really go after him and really minimize his position within the Republican Party. And I think somebody needs to do that. I don't know that anybody has the courage, the audacity, the backbone. Trump will come after you if you do. But my view is this is what needs to be done. I'll give you an example of something she wrote that's an example of not doing that and trying to take a different route, a softer route. Instead of going after Trump on his fake claims about a stolen election and the fact that he is a loser, that he has lost the Republicans, the House, the Senate, and the White House, and that she is a winner, that she's never lost an election, that she is a winner, therefore, Trump shouldn't be the nominee because he's proven that he can lose to somebody as weak as Biden. That should be the strategy, or one of the pieces of the strategy. Instead of that, Nikki Haley's saying, this is a tweet that she put out, but this is kind of a theme. I have a particular message to my fellow Republicans. We've lost the popular vote in 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. Our cause is right, but we have failed to win the confidence of a majority of Americans. Well, that ends today. If you're tired of losing, then put your trust in a new generation. And if you want to win, not just as a party, but as a country, then stand with me. Now, that's a great message. She's absolutely right. Republicans have lost the popular vote. I mean, yes, we do have, that's not how you choose a president in the United States. So it's not questioning the legitimacy of those votes, but it is true that, and this is how she sidesteps the Donald Trump thing. Donald Trump clearly lost the popular vote. He doesn't question that. He claims he lost certain states. By appealing to this idea of the popular vote, she sidesteps, still gets to say we've lost, still gets to call them losers in a sense, and doesn't attack Trump's claim about the specific elections of 2020. I mean, she can get away with this for a while, but ultimately she's going to have to deal with Trump's claims. She's going to have to take a stand. As I've said, I like Nikki Haley. I thought she did a good job in South Carolina as governor. I thought she did, and people I know in South Carolina liked her. I thought she did a good job as a representative, the U.S. representative in the UN, although I don't believe the U.S. should have a representative in the UN, but that's a whole different question. But she did a good job. She's firm. She's tough. She's got, I think, the right kind of foreign policy, much better than Donald Trump's foreign policy. And my only, and she's written up ads defending capitalism. They're not the defense I would like to see of capitalism, but it sure is better than Biden, Elizabeth Warren's defense of capitalism, and it certainly is better than, I think, Trump, and we'll see what DeSantis' defense of capitalism is if he has one. Nikki Haley has not been afraid to use the word capitalism and to stand by capitalism, so she gets a lot of credit from me for that. She comes across as tough and intelligent. The only negative with me in terms of Nikki Haley, the only negative I have with Nikki Haley is the fact that she cozied up to Trump so much while he was president. She was his, again, UN secretary, but she just has not criticized him, and that really, really worries me in terms of her ability to stand up to him, in terms of her ability to separate herself from the Make America Great crowd, and to define a real winning strategy that is not linked to the I think, failed strategies of Trump. And anyway, so we will see. But I'm excited. She's somebody to watch. At this point, I don't think she has a chance. If DeSantis runs, I don't think she has a chance. And I'm afraid Republicans are going to have too many nominees. I'm hoping that they don't get more than five legit ones. We'll see. I hope Pence stays out of it. I hope Pompeo stays out of it, unless the only good reason for one of them to enter the campaign. But neither Pompeo or Pence are going to do this. The only reason to have them enter the campaign is if they are willing to go full throttle anti-Trump, if they're willing to attack him viciously in order to allow the best of the rest to rise up. Somebody needs to do that. The problem is Pompeo is Secretary of State and Pence was his vice president. They stood by him really his entire presidency. Neither one of them is in a position to say he was terrible and he is a terrible human being because both of them played along. So you need a candidate, and Nikki Haley's ideally situated for this. You need a candidate who can just go after him, just completely go after him. We will see. My priority right now is my hope right now is somehow Nikki differentiates herself and gains enough traction to be the Trump alternative, or at least to be the Trump DeSantis alternative, and it's a three-way race, and that she somehow comes out ahead. I think that's very low probability, but that's my hope. And again, I like her, so maybe she's a president in the next cycle, or maybe she's a VP, or we'll see. We'll see what actually happens. All right. I've already talked about the Biden administration's strong shift towards antitrust enforcement, although almost all the actions they're taking were started by the Trump administration. I think this is a shift towards more aggressive antitrust enforcement, particularly with regard to big tech, but broader than that, that started under the Trump administration, and certainly is now really picking up, really gaining steam under the Biden administration. The Justice Department is dramatically escalating its case against Apple, its, quote, probe of Apple. They are aggressively adding litigators, and they're trying to get the number two of the Justice Department, this guy named Cantor, who was forced to recuse himself from the Apple investigation because in the private sector, before he joined the Justice Department, he was a lawyer that represented many companies that went after Apple. So he has an economic interest, he has a professional interest in going after Apple. So he was recused. They're trying to get him involved. Again, the Biden administration is not particularly concerned with the rule of law when it comes to these kind of things. But they are clearly ramping up. This is an investigation that was started under the Trump administration in 2019, but it's really being escalated now. They're going after the Apple App Store. They're going after what they went after Microsoft originally for. That is that the iOS, the Apple operating system on things like the iPhone and on the computer, gives preference to Apple-designed software. Oh my God, how could that be? How evil of Apple to do that. So for example, that Safari is better integrated into the operating system. Isn't that a shock when the same company that develops Safari develops that? Now, there's no shortage of browsers. I don't use Safari on the computer. I use it on the phone, but I don't use it on the computer. Sometimes I don't use it on the phone either. How is anybody hurt by this? It doesn't matter. Anyway, they're going after, and it's going to get ugly. I think before the Biden administration has left office, they will launch a number of significant lawsuits. Again, they've already launched against Google and Meta, and now We've got Apple, and you'll see this go to trial in all cases. Hopefully, I really, really, really hope that Republicans will do themselves a favor and not elect Donald Trump again. They elect somebody who can beat Biden or whoever the Democrats put up, and who can change the Justice Department's focus on this stuff and at least soften it, at least have them step back a little bit, because this could devastate American business. We've talked about how the American economy is super flexible. We just got this morning a number about consumer spending in last month, skyrocketed through the roof. We all have money somehow. That's more suggestion that the economy is doing great. It was taken as a negative by the markets because that suggests, again, that the Fed's going to increase interest rates and fight inflation. But the resilience of this economy is truly astounding. But as we attack our businesses, as we crush our businesses more, regulate, control, limit, force them to spend their resources on trials, on breaking them up, on all this stuff, the less flexible and resilient the U.S. economy will become. So this is a survival issue for all of us in terms of our quality of life and standard of living depends on it. Just on another front, in terms of antitrust, the FTC Commission, which is responsible for a lot of antitrust actions, the Federal Trade Commission, in another one of those alphabet agencies that should be abolished. But anyway, this is an agency that is very important with regard to antitrust. Anyway, they had one Republican. The commission is not being able to nominate fully, but the chairman of the commission is Linda Kahn, who is an academic dedicated to breaking up big tech, dedicated to enforcing antitrust and shattering the decades-long, Bork, I guess it's named after Bork, the judge, doctrine about consumer harm. She wants to break them up for all kinds of reasons. Anyway, she's truly vicious. Anyway, there was one Republican in the commission. Usually there are 5 commissioners, a chairman and 4, and the 4 usually split 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. So you get 3-2 depending on who's president. Well, there's only one Republican in the commission right now. I think there are 2 Democrats and 1 Republican. They haven't filled the rest of the positions. And the last Republicans just put out an op-ed this morning resigning and claiming that Linda Kahn, the chairman of the FTC, is completely and utterly corrupt, that she is circumventing the rule of law, that she is dedicated to her antitrust agenda, and she will do anything, including exceed her authority, break the law, and manipulate and change and all of this stuff in order to get her way. Basically, the last Republican is saying, this is Christine Wilson, she's saying, I was hoping to be able to stay, to slow things down, to not allow, this kind of rampage to happen. I can't, plus every day I stay, I'm endorsing the legitimacy of the FTC, and under Linda Kahn, the FTC is no longer legitimate. So this was in the Wall Street Journal, I think today. No, it was yesterday in the Wall Street Journal op-ed. Really sad in the sense of the rule of law, really sad in the sense that we can expect, we really, really can expect antitrust to become this massive, horrible issue. Always has been, always will be, but under Biden, I think 40 years of relative calm are going to be completely unended. And again, foundations laid by the Trump administration. This is bipartisan. A lot of this stuff is bipartisan. I just read today that Biden's attack on fees, hidden fees, that he wants to have a law that prevents businesses from charging fees, banks and hotels and all this stuff. Bipartisan. Republicans support it. I mean, it's hopeless out there. The politics are hopeless, 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 hopeless. All right, let's talk about the train derailment. So as you probably have read, because it's all over the place, last week a train derailed in East Palestine, Ohio, not East Palestine, Israel, East Palestine, Ohio. The train was carrying a bunch of toxic chemicals. The town of East Palestine was evacuated, about 5,000 people. One of the government departments, the EPA, engaged in a controlled release of those chemicals and the burning off of those chemicals. While they were doing that, the townspeople were evacuated. Since then, the townspeople have been told that they can come back, that it's safe. And then there's like a gazillion stories coming out of this, right? So one story is, it's not safe, they shouldn't come back, what's the government doing? And what's amazing about that is coming from both left and right. You're seeing that from environmentalist types. No, these chemicals are awful, these chemicals are horrible, why are we even transporting them? By the way, these chemicals are what allow us to make PVC, and it is poisonous, so you have to be careful about its quantities and what it does. And the fact that they released it and burnt it off was probably a good thing. These could have exploded and could have contaminated all kinds of stuff nearby. Anyway, the environmentalists are saying, we need to get off of fossil fuels, we need to get off of these kind of chemicals. Of course, then you wouldn't have PVC pipes, you wouldn't have PVC water pipes and sewage pipes. I mean, you wouldn't have you wouldn't be able to live in a modern home. PVC is a crucial material that most of us rely on, for so much. Anyway, that's kind of a typical environmentalist argument. Birds are dying, fish are dying, animals are dying. It's not safe. This is horrible. This is the problem in America. You can imagine. What was surprising, though, is to listen to Charlie Cook. Charlie Cook of Make America Great Again fame. Charlie Cook, who used to be an Ayn Rand fan, used to be actually a Yaron Brook fan. I used to know him when he was younger. Charlie Cook of Turning Point USA has his own radio show. Well, his interpretation is completely different. His thing is, the reason the townspeople were all invited back and said that it was safe. He said it's not safe. But the reason they were invited back, and the government, I can't pronounce the guy's name, the Secretary of Transportation, Buttigieg, or whatever his name is, the reason he told the townspeople to come back is because this is a part of the war on white people. Because all the residents of East Palestine and generally of Eastern Ohio, of this are working class white people, and the Democratic Party hates working class white people, and therefore this is just a racist ploy to destroy and not care about and try to harm working class white people who vote for Donald Trump. I mean, literally, that was his take. And, Charlie Cook's an intelligent kid, super ambitious. I would not be surprised that as soon as he hits the age of eligibility, he is running for president. He has set himself up for that. He's got a wide network. He looks the part. He's very articulate. If you listen to him on YouTube, he's very fluent. He's very passionate. He's very articulate. He used to give a good speech on capitalism. Not anymore, right? He would be thoroughly anti-capitalist today. But Charlie Cook, who has, of course, the expertise in chemistry and in biology, I'm not sure he finished high school, but I know he didn't go to college. Not that I care, but he has no such expertise. Knows that this is unsafe, knows that this is just an attack on Americans. And he gives the example of, imagine if this train, this is such a stupid example. Oh, Charlie. He gives the example of what if the train had derailed and all these chemicals come out in the middle of Atlanta in a black neighborhood. Would they encourage people to come back? Well, he's comparing a part of the country which is sparsely populated, we're talking about a town of 5,000 people, versus the middle of a metropolitan city with I don't know how many millions of people in it. But notice the race card. The race card is everywhere, constantly talking about race. Charlie Cook is setting himself up as the white savior. He is going to save the white people from the war on white people. And by doing that, he's using the same kind of racist, attitude that white supremacists have used and that the CRT people use, that the left uses. Indeed, he complains about people talking about Buttigieg at some point in this clip, in the clip where he talks about the train. He says Buttigieg is going around the country complaining that there are not enough black workers, black working class. And that's not exactly, it's a conference about black neighborhoods, and Buttigieg saying, we build infrastructure in these neighborhoods, but then everybody's building the infrastructure. All the people actually building it are white, are not the same color as the neighborhood, I think he says. Which is stupid and ridiculous and probably untrue. But it's race baiting. It's emphasizing skin color, emphasizing race everywhere, all the time. And now everybody's doing it. But it's so dangerous. When the left does it, they don't know what they're doing because they're setting themselves up. The right is going to be so much better at it than they are. And the right will appeal to the majority in this country. And the majority in this country can become pretty brutal around race issues if they buy into the kind of rhetoric that Charlie Cook is. So basically the Democratic Party is out. It's got a war on white people, so to hell. So if they get cancer and if they all die from chemicals, who cares? They're just white people. And that's the attitude he claims. Just the horror of that claim. Anyway, of course, the train derailment is also has become a big topic on which to discuss train deregulation, railroad deregulation. Become a big topic about how many derailments we have a year and why trains are so unsafe, and is this caused by capitalism? This is and of course, Charlie Cook won't defend capitalism here. What he'll defend is the racist nature of everything in our country. Doing the same thing the left does that he complains when they do. God. So the left is massively going after the railroad industry. It's not regulated enough. It's not controlled enough. Donald Trump's deregulated or didn't put in place certain regulations that would have prevented this derailment. I have to do with automatic braking systems. That Trump lifted the requirement for that, which is true. This is too much of a Wild West. The real problem with the railroad industry is they're all profit motivated. They're driven by profits. Of course, derailment really, really, really increases their profits. Do you know how many lawsuits this railroad is going to have to deal with from the derailment? Do you know how regulated railroads are and how much regulation they have suffered through, and for how many years it is in that sense, other than banks, it's probably the second most regulated industry historically. From the beginning of the railroads, it was regulated. The government got involved, whether it was by stealing people's land in order to build railroads, or whether it's by regulating the fees and the rates and regulating where they could go and who could own them. And every aspect of the railroad industry is regulated. The idea that railroads don't care. This is also tied up now into the fact that the Biden administration did not support the railroad unions in their conflict with the railroad owners, and that Biden had Congress pass a bill that forced the union, coercion, to accept the contract that was negotiated, right? The contract which was negotiated. So they're claiming it's Biden's fault. They're claiming it's capitalism's fault. They're claiming it's the free market's fault. There is no free market here. There is the free market, and I bet. But if you read what actually happened, it sounds like an Atlas Shrugged moment. It sounds like people not taking responsibility. It sounds like a lot of human error and some technical problems with the train cars, maybe an imbalance between the train cars that was caused again by human error. But it all sounds like, yeah, in a heavily regulated industry like this, where people don't take pride in their jobs, where the companies are not taking pride in their ability to make money and be safe and produce results, and that nobody takes responsibility. You remember that from Atlas Shrugged? Nobody takes responsibility. Nobody's willing to take any responsibility for what's happening, what happens. Train wrecks, disasters, people die, things get destroyed. And that, to me, this sounds like a kind of a right out of Atlas Shrugged, and them blaming the railroads, which suffer massive economic losses because of this, is absurd. I bet you if you dig just a little bit, we will find that regulations, inhibit the railroads from actually running a rail line optimally. By the way, one of the reasons that the United States has a relatively primitive, backward, old, struggling rail industry, rather than a modern, efficient, fast industry, is because of the massive amount of regulation that are involved. Nobody in their right mind would modernize a railroad when everything is so controlled, where their ability to make money off of it is limited, where their ability to differentiate themselves from other railroads is so limited because of regulation. What we need in the rail industry is total privatization, the government getting out of it, and then you will see real investments in railroad and real upgrades to the quality of the tracks, the quality of the trains, and dramatic reductions in the amount of accidents. Do you know that every year there were 1,000 derailments? I mean, obviously not all of them as big as this, but it's anyway. Controls, regulations, rules, these are the kind of things that really lead to this thing in the end. The creating employees who are encouraged to be mindless because they just follow the rule book. Finally, a quick story, not much commentary with this, I think the commentary is obvious. So Iran was celebrating Iranian Revolution anniversary, and many countries, including the United States and many European countries, boycotted the celebrations. They boycotted the celebration because of the way Iran is treating women in the country, because of these protests and the summary executions, and just their individual rights, human rights records are so horrible and so disgusting. A lot of European countries, a lot of America, obviously, and of course the potential development of nuclear weapons have caused a lot of people to boycott the celebration. But two countries in Europe did send delegates, Poland and Hungary, members of the European Union, in spite of the European Union basically boycotting the event and defying the EU boycott. Both Poland and Hungary sent high-level envoys to Iranian Revolution anniversary. Now, we know Hungary is a favorite of the New Right. It is a favorite of the National Conservatives. It's a favorite of CPAC, the Conservative Conference. It had, Hungary's president is a darling of the New Right. And you can see that the New Right is affiliated with regimes like Iran. It's not surprised that we're not seeing a lot of criticism of Iran or support for the women's revolution in Iran. I mean, how many of the New Right would like women to cover up, or maybe not to cover up, but at least to stay home and cook and be available for sex whenever they want and just shut their mouth and not have a personality and not have a personal ambition. So there's a lot between conservatives and the Iranian regime that I think fits. And of course, the other country, it's interesting, is Poland. The other country is Poland, which is a very Catholic nation. Again, religion uniting the two. But it's particularly bizarre given Poland's antagonism towards Russia, support for Ukraine. Poland, of all the countries in Europe, Poland is the most supportive of Ukraine and its war against Russia. It's the most anti-Russian country of all. And yet, Iran is an ally of Russia, facilitating attacks on Ukraine, selling them and providing them with technology, selling them drones, and Poland sends an envoy. Their conservatism trumps their hatred of Russia and their love of Ukraine. So I think that speaks for itself, how disgusting that is, and that the American right is affiliated with some of these. All right, we're close to halfway to our $250 goal. We've got 5 questions, which I will take quickly now. So there's not a lot of time. If you want to help us get to the goal, now's the time to do it. Wes, thank you for the $50. That got us a long way to where we are right now. We need 3 more people to do that, and we're done. And then Ryan, thank you. Really appreciate that. We've got 96 people watching live. So if everybody does $2, we're done. If you do $5, even quicker. So everybody who wants to, views the show as a value and would like to value for value, click on the super chat icon, do a question or non-question, just support the show. I'd appreciate it. Any amount is welcome. Thank you. Sticker. Where's the sticker gang? Friend Harper says, mobilize the sticker gang. All right. The Godfather says, I saw your lecture on capitalism and loved the part on economic power versus political power. My concern is when economic power becomes political power through lobbying. How does an objectivist reform lobbying, given that lobbying is a free speech issue? An objectivist does not reform lobbying. The problem with lobbying is not the free speech of businesses. It's not the fact that businesses are trying to influence regulators. That is essential. If regulators are going to have the kind of power and politicians are going to have the kind of power that they have, why would you take away a self-defense tool like lobbying from the industry? The only way to get rid of lobbying, the only legitimate way to get rid of lobbying, is to eliminate the power that politicians and regulators have over business. That is, the way to eliminate lobbying is to not give we'll put it this way. If politicians and regulators don't have power over business, business doesn't have an incentive to lobby. So get rid of the incentive. By getting rid of the incentive, you get rid of the lobbying. Business doesn't want to lobby. It lobbies because it's available. It lobbies because it recognizes that these politicians and these regulators have massive influence over their own business. They better lobby, otherwise everything that's done in Washington will be anti-them. Granted, much of the lobbying is bad in the sense that it is lobbying to protect themselves at the expense of their competitors. There's no way to stop that. There's no way to avoid that other than by making politicians and regulators impotent when it comes to the economy. Make them have no power when it comes to the economy, and as a consequence, business will stop lobbying them because what for? Why waste the money? They have no power over me. And that means the separation of state from economics. And you know, if you read my State of the Union, or if you listen to my State of the Union address that I did, that to me, you know, step one in a move towards more economic freedom is to get the government out of the business of business and to do it as quickly and as thoroughly as possible. And the first thing to do is get rid of all the subsidies, all the tax loopholes, all the deductions, all the favors, all the goodies. And then slowly, or not so slowly, pretty fast, unwind the regulatory state, unwind the regulations, get rid of all the bills that allowed all these regulators to have so much power over our productive community. All right, Jacob says, I loved your State of the Union. Oh, there we go, State of the Union. I loved your State of the Union. I was emotional, imagining how great America could be, the potential, the freedom, the wealth, the boldness. Please send a copy to Trump, DeSantis, Haley, etc. I will try, but, you know, no way are they ever going to embrace anything like that. And indeed, it would be suicidal, I think, for any politician to embrace my State of the Union. But thank you, Jacob. I appreciate that. I encourage everybody to listen to it. I will make it available to everybody. It was a members-only show, but you can become a member. And member-only, I mean YouTube member. I know some of you are members in other platforms, but not on YouTube. please stay on those other platforms. YouTube is the least efficient platform for me, but I need to give a perk unique to YouTube. So the perk unique to YouTube is member-only show once a month, but I will ultimately release it to everybody. So please, just to be patient, hopefully next week, it'll be available for everybody, and you'll be able to listen to it and hopefully enjoy it. I think you'll like it, and thank you, Jacob. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, we have got about $130 left for our goal. Again, basically $1.50 from everybody who's listening right now would get us there. So don't be shy. Click on that $ underneath there. Do a super chat or a sticker and support the show so we can get our goal. We try every show to meet our financial requirements. Michael asks, philosophy professors don't attack and dismiss Aristotle the way they attack and dismiss Ayn Rand. Why is this? Well, because Rand's philosophy has direct implications to politics and to morality as they understand it today. Aristotle's does not have those direct implications. They're indirect. They have to be understood. And my guess is most Aristotelian scholars are leftists. There's nothing really in Aristotle that prevents you from being one, and you can even find and kind of work around what do you call it? Aristotle being Aristotle. He can even work some form of altruism into an Aristotelian system. Some virtue ethicists do that. So Ayn Rand is explicit. She's unquestioning, explicit about the moral and political implication of her philosophy. Aristotle, it's not. They can pretend that his ideas don't necessitate egoism in a sense that we understand it, don't necessitate free capitalism, and I don't think they do. I don't think he's, he wrote 2,500 years ago. That's a big difference. It's a big difference. The issues, the concerns, the thoughts he has are very different than Ayn Rand, who wrote right now and applies a philosophy to everyday issues. All right, friend of Aristotle, thank you. Really appreciate it. Vikram, thank you. You say you asked a question above. Let me see what that question is. There he is. You called the Indian economy resilient a few days ago, but in India there's a rising authoritarianism and nationalism. One hopes that foreign money stays away and doesn't fan this trend. Any comment? I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I'm not that familiar and not that immersed in Indian politics. But there is rising authoritarianism, rising tribalism, certainly rising nationalism, even rising religionism. But the economy so far has been resilient. And as bad as India is, it's better than China. And I think you will see money coming into India for two reasons. One is not as bad as China. Two is not a national security threat to the United States and to the rest of the West. India, at least, is perceived as, while it's moving towards authoritarianism, it is perceived as a friend of the West, or at least not an enemy of the West. And therefore, it's okay to do business with them. Whereas China, we've turned away from China and turned more negative about China. So, I think that is... that's the issue involved. I don't think the resiliency of the Indian economy is sustainable the more they move towards authoritarianism and nationalism. I think authoritarianism and nationalism are inconsistent with a resilient, growing, innovative economy, which India purports to want to have. But for a while, that can be sustained, and for a while there's resilience, and for a while there's going to be foreign investment because the alternative is China, and that's unacceptable. Okay, Michael is saying, is there a way to make the concept of introspection more respectable? I don't think most intellectuals today can and do introspect. They see it as a mystical or religious proof of something. I don't know how you make it more respectable. I don't know what that means, but one of the ways to make it more respectable is to advocate for free will. I think what makes it is, you know, if you don't believe in free will, if you believe we're just colliding atoms and everything's determined and the laws of physics, you know, the known laws of physics are the only ones that apply, and everything's determined and nothing really matters, then why introspect? What's there to be found there? What value is there? So I think you have to overcome the determinism of modern culture. Harper Campbell, I've been following DeSantis lately, and I'm starting to think he might be dangerous and more intellectual, milder Trump populist, but I also see any rising populist stars in GOP other than him. Yeah, I mean, I agree with him. I think it's very dangerous. I'm not a supporter of DeSantis. I'm very, very skeptical about DeSantis. I don't think he's a friend of liberty. And I think he's very smart, and I think he's going to be able to use the power of government to promote a right-wing social agenda, which I don't think is pro-liberty and pro-freedom. So, yes, definitely worried about DeSantis, and I don't see another star. I mean, I wish it was Nikki Haley that can challenge him and Trump. Ryan says, I can't see or find how to become a member of YBS. There is a button under the video called Join, at least on the desktop YouTube. So it's in YouTube, and somewhere near the video screen there's a button Join. I think it also exists on your phone or the mobile app, and you press the Join button. That's how you become a member. So keep digging, or just do a Google search on how to become a member on YouTube. All right, everybody, thank you. Thank you for the super chatters. Really, really appreciate it. We did not make our goal. We're at $83. If everybody watching right now as we end the show would jump in and put $1 in, we would make our goal, but we are late and we have to wrap up. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate the support. Tomorrow, we'll be back to more normal times. We'll be back to our morning show, and then we'll have Alex Epstein for an interview in the evening. What else is tomorrow? And then Friday, we'll have our morning show, and then Saturday, we'll do our 3 p.m. show before I fly out. I fly out Saturday night to Europe. All right, and yes, between now and then, it's going to be important to, you know, raise as much money, because while I'm traveling, I have a feeling super chats are going to be very low because I'm going to have a small live audience. The reality is I'll still do shows, but there won't be as many live audience because it'll be in all kinds of weird hours of the day and night. David Arsenault, thank you. Appreciate the support. Catherine Dawson, Colleen, Fred Harper, RDF, all thank you. Appreciate you jumping in. And Hiram has a question. $25. Thank you, Hiram. So we're down to only needing $56. On Poland, I quote Arthur C. Clarke, why does religion have to be more evil than necessary? Also, super chats do not give me the right to annoy people. All right. In what way is it annoying people? Who's annoyed by whom? I missed that one. Didn't get the who's annoying whom with the super chat. All right. But yes, religion is if you're religious of one religion and take it seriously, you tend to be a supporter of other people taking seriously their religions. At least that seems to be the trend. All right, everybody. Thank you again to all our super chatters. Thank you to everybody who joined us. I will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.